Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company taking a look at a Lakeside BF1 Vindicator. This is a belt-fed semi-auto 22 rifle. Really kind of a cool thing. Now the genesis of this goes back to the Tippmann company. In 1983, Dennis Tippmann got the idea to start making half-scale, fully functional Browning machine guns, 1917s, 1919s, and M2 heavy barrels, but chambered for the 22 long rifle cartridge. And they are, frankly, gorgeous guns. They're super cool. Kind of the idea was you get a mechanically accurate, functional replica of a big heavy machine gun that it's easy to take out and shoot. It's cheap to shoot. Just runs on 22 long rifle rimfire ammo. Doesn't weigh much, easy to move around. They're really cool guns. One of these days we'll do a video on some of those. Well, that didn't last very long because in 1986 the Hughes Amendment was passed and ended the ended you being able to register new transferable machine guns. So at that point, Tippmann kind of saw the writing on the wall, and in 1987 he sold the company to a guy named Vollmer, TJ Vollmer, who would continue to work with it in a post-sample sort of after Hughes Amendment realm. By the way, Tippmann went on to then get into paintball equipment, which is where I think he's much better known these days. Anyway, Vollmer had this for a while and built some guns and supported them and accessories and that sort of thing. And then in 2001, he sold the company to a guy named Eric Graetz, who owned Lakeside Machine. And Eric Graetz had been apparently a big fan of these guns, really liked them, had a bunch of them, and wanted to get into that. So Graetz buys the company. And then in 2004, we get to this, the Vindicator. What's cool is he took this tooling for making replica Brownings and decided to make something that was a lot less expensive, not intended to be a historical reproduction or a mechanical reproduction of an existing gun, but rather a fun plinker. And so he made a total of 61 of these, and they are belt-fed, either semi or full auto. He made some as post-sample machine guns and some as semi-autos that anybody could buy, but using a half-scale Browning machine gun feeding system because he already had all the manufacturing stuff in place for that. So let me show you up close. Well, there you have it, the model Vindicator. This is the BF1. This is, of course, in caliber 22. That's 22 long rifle. They made 50 in 22 caliber and 11 in 17 Hornady Mach 2 caliber. This is one of the last ones. Unfortunately, I don't have one of the belts here that I can show you, but it is effectively a duplicate of the Browning machine gun cloth belt. They did actually, Lakeside developed a nylon link, disintegrating link that will work in these and all of the previous miniature Browning guns. So that's another option. I don't have a set of those links to show you either, unfortunately. But mechanics-wise, we have charging handle right there. If you're familiar with the Browning machine gun, you will recognize this sliding feed system, as well as, well, I'll get to the top cover in just a moment. There is a sliding safety here on the back. This side is fire, that side is safe. It simply locks the trigger. As a semi-auto version, this fires from a closed bolt, so not an open bolt gun. Now, like a Browning, we can pull back on this, lift up the top cover, and that is a replica of exactly how the Browning machine gun feeds. So there's our little feed pawl on the top. We have a second feed pawl on the bottom here. So the belt comes in this side, and the empty belt goes out this side. Empty cases are kicked out the bottom of the gun. What looks like a magazine well is actually the ejection port. There is a little round cutout right at the top of that extractor groove. So when you have a belt right in here, a cartridge can go straight back from the belt into the bolt face. Then, as the bolt starts to go back, this finger is going to push the cartridge just slightly down, which locks it into those, it locks its rim into that extractor groove. Then, presumably, you have a second cartridge in the bottom. That's how this works. You've got two rounds in the bolt. when you're actually firing. You've got the one there that just fired and is now an empty case. You can see the firing pin hole there. As this comes back, that finger is going to push the live round down just enough that it starts to impinge on the fired round. The firing pin also comes out there to aid in kicking the empty case down out the bottom. Then, when the bolt starts to return forward, that front arm is going to push down further. That seats the new ready-to-fire cartridge in front of the firing pin and lines it up with the chamber there, where it will go into the chamber. Then the arm lifts back up to start the cycle over, and once the bolt is home, you're ready to actually fire. This is a simple blowback mechanism, so there isn't a recoil action on it like there is on a proper Browning. The pushback from the cartridge is enough to cycle this mechanism. This track on the top of the bolt interfaces with this pin on the feed arm up here on the top cover, and that is what translates back and forth motion of the bolt into side-to-side motion that pulls the belt in one cartridge at a time. Now, aside from the belt-fed mechanism, the handling of this thing is pretty typical. In fact, it feels a lot like a Mini 14. We've got grasping grooves up here. There is a shroud over the barrel so that, you know, these were made, some of them, as machine guns, and that will get the barrel very toasty hot. So that protects your hand, as well as the wooden stock on the bottom. We have a little bit of a muzzle breakout here and a somewhat odd front sight, a very big triangular front sight post with this distinct white line across it. The sights are definitely the most unusual thing about the design here, because that post is your rear sight. The idea is that you line it up with the front sight in so that the top of this post is even with that white line on the front sight, and then you have a little pointer. The top of the pointer hits where the rifle hits. It's hard to get a good focal point on this with the camera, but this is what your sight picture looks like focusing on the front sight. If you bring it back to the rear sight, you've got something kind of like that. The idea was that this sighting system obscures the target as little as possible. Instead of having a big ring around, ring rear sight that's going to obscure part of your view, or a tangent sight, where you can't see anything below the sight, this keeps the target as visible as possible. So it does work. It does seem a little better in person than it looks on camera. I don't have a better way to demonstrate that, unfortunately. But whether this is actually an improvement over more traditional methods of sighting, I'm a little bit dubious. Interesting idea. It would be fun to go out and try it. But I don't think I'll be looking to move this system over to any of my other guns. These have, of course, been out of production for many years now. There was only a tiny run of them originally made because, well, they were still expensive guns, and as post-sample guns, there isn't that large of a group of people who are able legally to purchase them. Semi-auto's kind of a fun, cool plinker sort of thing, especially when you have the mechanism of really a half-scale Browning machine gun as your feed system. So, pretty cool, neat, rare gun to take a look at, and kind of the epitome of the recreational machine gun. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you'd like to know more about or follow the Rock Island Auction Company, you will find in the description text below links to their YouTube channel and their Instagram page. Thanks for watching.